Commercial pilot Brodie Torrance, a former RAF pilot, is running towards the plane that he has to fly. While he is heading through the terminal, he receives a video call via phone from his daughter. He meets his co-pilot, Samuel Dele, in the plane. Dele introduces himself to Brodie and says he is from Hong Kong. Brodie says he is Scottish. Dele hands him an iPod to check the weather conditions. The weather forecaster comes and asks if everything is okay. Brodie responds that the weather over the South China Sea appears to be bad. Brodie meets an RCMP officer who has brought a handcuffed criminal named Louis Gaspare. Gaspare was charged with homicide some 15 years ago. Brodie tells RCMP officer to keep Gaspare separated from the other passengers and sit on the back of the plane. The passengers start coming into the plane, and Bonnie and Brodie welcome them by saying Happy New Year. Brodie announces through a microphone that the Trailblazer flight is about to take off, and their first stop is Tokyo. The two girls sitting 2 rows ahead of the RCMP officer and Gaspare try to picture them, but the officer stops them from doing so. After flying a little farther, the plane shakes, and Captain Brodie tells the passengers via microphone to fasten their seat belts. A little later, the plane shocks so violently that the passengers get shocked. Brodie goes to the passengers to calm them. The plane jolts again, and Brodie's head hits the upside of the seat, causing the blood to ooze. All the passengers cry out of fear, and the weather turns to lightning and storms. Unfortunately, the power inside the plane went out. Brodie tries to inform the crew on the station that their plane has been struck by lightning and there is no power in the plane. But he cannot connect with the crew at the station. Brodie makes the last call of Mayday, Mayday, Mayday to the crew on the station to let them know about their critical condition because they have no navigation or power in the plane. The plane starts to move in a downward direction at a fast speed, and the passengers start to cry and scream. The RCMP officer's phone falls out of his grasp amid the chaos. He gets up from his seat to take back the phone. A stewardess runs towards him to stop him from doing so. Meanwhile, the plane jolts so severely that both the RCMP officer and the stewardess are pushed hard against the roof of the plane, causing their death on the spot. Although Brodie tries to get control over the plane, it keeps moving downward directly. Suddenly, Brodie sees an island and directs the plane toward it. Brodie sees a road on the island and turns the plane towards it. The plane touches the bushy land, suddenly stops in the forest. Brodie rushes to the passengers and tells them to get off the plane immediately because the electricity in it can cause harm to them. The passengers keep crying out of fear. The scene now shifts to the headquarters of Trailblazer in New York. The owner of the airline, Terry Hampton, asks his employees where the plane has lost control. One of the employees says it lost control near the west of the Philippines. She briefs him about the last position of the plane. On the other hand, Dele asks Brodie what to do with the prisoner, and he says he does not know because this is his first experience. Brodie tells Bonnie to keep an eye on Gaspare and keep him away from other passengers. She hands him the keys she stole from an RCMP officer's pocket. Brodie then walks to the passengers, who stand up and shower him with questions as they see him coming toward them. He tells them that once the plane cools down, they will take the things out of it. In the airline headquarters in Scarsdale, a former Special Forces officer named Hampton says that they have only one option to rescue the passengers, and that is to take help from mercenaries. Brodie tells the passengers to share the food with other passengers. After that, Brodie and Dele go to check the power supply on the plane. Meanwhile, Bonnie comes there and tells them that the plane is fully unloaded except for the dead bodies. Brodie walks inside the plane and comes near the corpses. He takes a gun from the body of the RCMP officer and puts it into a plastic bag. After that, he checks the bag of the RCMP officer and finds a knife in his belongings of Gaspare. One of the passengers takes out his mobile phone and starts to film him and the others. On the other hand, Dele informs Brodie that the region they are in currently has no government or police to save them. The region is controlled by a separatist group. As the passenger who is filming him comes near Gaspare to film him, he gets up and pushes him so hard that he falls. He yells at him, saying that he should keep him out of his video. Brodie tells the passengers that the rescue teams will take some time to find them because they landed far away. The scene now shifts to the leader of the separatist group, whose name is Datu Junmar. A man rushes towards him to tell him about a plane that has just made an emergency landing on the island. On the other hand, Brodie's daughter learns about the disappearance of the plane on television. While walking through the forest, Brodie tells Gaspare that he has learned lately about his career in the military because he saw his knife in the plane. All of a sudden, when Brodie looks back, he sees Gaspare nowhere behind him. But he keeps moving ahead. In the airline headquarters, an employee plays a video clip of Brodie. He is seen fighting a man on the plane. He chokes the man to death, and Scarsdale says he is happy with his physical strength of Brodie. Brodie sees a house in the middle of the forest. He finds no one in the house. However, he sees a telephone and tries to dial the number of the airline headquarters. On the other side, Scarsdale contacts a mercenary group to rescue the passengers from the island. Brodie somehow connects the wire of the telephone and dials the number of the station, but to no avail. Next, he dials her daughter, and meanwhile a man suddenly attacks him from behind. They fought violently for some time. After an intense fight, Brodie chokes him to death. Brodie and Gaspare run the car toward the passengers. On the other hand, the separatist group reaches the place where the plane and passengers are sitting. The leader of the separatist group asks for the captains and the passengers' lists. Brodie and Gaspare are seeing this all from the bushes. When the man points his gun at Dele, Brodie tries to intervene, but Gaspare forces him not to do so. They kill a couple who show resistance. After that, the passengers are told to move into the bus that the separatist group has brought. Soon after the separatist group is gone, Brodie runs out of the bushes towards the two militants who are still near the plane. Gaspare kills one, and Brodie asks the other one to tell them about where the passengers are being taken. Brodie goes inside the plane, and he sees the power inside is working. He sees the map on the iPod and writes the address of the village where the passengers have been taken on the shirt that he places on the steering. Gaspare and Brodie then drive the militants' car to the place where the passengers are. On the other hand, the militants take some passengers out of the room-turned-prison and film them. They ask the passengers to give their names and country. On the other hand, the mercenaries that Scarsdale hired arrive at the location of the plane. One of the mercenaries goes inside the plane, and in the pilot's cabin, he finds the shirt on which Brodie had written the address of the village. Brodie and Gaspare stealthily reach the village, and they one by one kill the militants guarding the place. Eventually, they find the passengers, who are locked in a room. Brodie unlocks the room while Gaspare hammers a militant who is standing nearby. One by one, Brodie frees the passengers and tells them to get on the bus. All the passengers get on the bus silently, without letting the militants know. Gaspare tells Brodie that they cannot take the bus full of passengers out of the place because the militants are standing in the way. Brodie then says he will distract them because they will not dare kill him. Brodie walks toward the militants unarmed, and immediately they catch him. They beat him, and in the meantime, their leader arrives. Before they can shoot Brodie dead, the mercenaries arrive and start killing the militants. The mercenaries take the captain inside the bus, and the driver drives the bus out of the village towards the plane. But the leader of the militants does not give up. He brings his men to the location of the plane. On the other hand, Brodie's daughter turns on the television, and she learns that his father and the passengers are still missing. She takes her mobile phone and films a message for her dad. The mercenaries take the passengers to the plane. While the passengers are getting on the plane, the militants break into the place, firing on the passengers. A heavy exchange of fire begins between the militants and mercenaries. The mercenaries are armed with automatic weapons that can pierce through any obstacle in their path. Brodie runs towards the mercenary's head and tells him that they have 2 minutes to ignite the engine of the plane. Amid the heavy exchange of fire, Brodie runs towards the plane. However, the leader of the militants shoots Brodie in the leg, but he keeps running. Dele starts the engine of the plane while Brodie cries out of pain. Gaspare is running short of ammunition and runs towards the bag. In the bag, He finds a lot of money, but he checks another bag where he gets the ammunition. Finally, the plane gets started, but the militants keep shooting at it to stop it from flying. Brodie used the radio to broadcast the direction to the headquarters because they didn't have a map or radar. He tells the headquarters to find him a place to land away from this island. The mercenaries get to the plane one by one, but Gaspare stays behind. Gaspare takes the bag full of money and runs towards the forest rather than the plane. Seeing the plane running, the leader of the militants, along with a man, drives their vehicle in front of the plane to attack it. The leader stops the vehicle in front of the running plane at a distance, and he instructs his man to aim the rocket launcher at the plane. Gaspare shoots the man dead before he can aim the rocket launcher at the plane, and the rocket misses its target. Now the militant leader grabs the rocket quickly to launch it at the plane. But before he can fire the rocket launcher, the plane overtakes the leader in the car. Before the other militants come, the plane is already airborne. Brodie asks the headquarters to find a place to land, and they tell him one. The plane somehow lands at the Siasi Island airport. The rescue at the airport come immediately. The passengers clap for Brodie for saving their lives. He comes out and sits on the stairs of the plane. He takes out his mobile phone and makes a call to his daughter. The movie ends there.